Hello and welcome to Lord of the Board. My name is Sam Smith and today we are going to be covering House Richese in Dune Imperium. And as all of the other videos that I've done on this particular game and series, we are going to be going through the two characters that are represented. We have got Count Ilban Richese as well as Helena Richese. We're going to go over their abilities, their signet ring abilities, and then I'm going to give you some beginner strategy tips to help improve your first couple games as them. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. Now, first off, we are going to be talking about Count Ilban Richese. Now, his ability is Ruthless Negotiator. Whenever he pays Solari for the cost of a board space specifically, he is able to draw a card. And then his Signet Ring ability is Manufacturing, where he is able to gain 1 Solari. Now, obviously, having that ability to gain the card when you're spending Solari means that you're going to want to look at all of those spaces on the board that you actually have to spend Solari to get to. Those are going to be the green Landsraad spaces, but not every space here is equal per se. Some are more expensive and some can't be used repeatedly. So we've got the High Council. This is only a one-time deal. I mean, you can only do this one time. And same with the Swordmaster. You can only get a third worker one time as well. So those two are only going to be a one-time benefit space. But if you look in the Landsraad, you can see that 2 spaces are able to be used repeatedly, and that's going to be Rally Troops, where you're able to get 4 warriors in the garrison, and also the Mentat ability, where you're going to be able to grab the Mentat and draw a card. Keep in mind that there is a difference between those spaces. You can only use some that one time throughout the whole game, and then those other 2 that can be used every single round. Now, kind of playing along with that idea, the Mentat ability is probably best for you than it is for any other person in this game. The reason for that is that if you do choose the Mentat, you're going to be drawing 2 cards, one with your ability and one with the board space itself, for the cost of only 2 Solari. And in addition to that, you're still able to make another action. So this is definitely something that as Count Ilban Richese, you're going to want to use at key points. And to me, it's something that you want to make use of as pretty much often as you can, just because of the sheer value that you get out of it. Now, depending on how you build your deck, drawing more cards throughout the game could either mean you're gaining more persuasion with those reveal abilities, or you're gaining more conflict points with those abilities. And I think focusing on one of these 2 paths is going to lead you to a better success than kind of trying to balance both. So focusing on cards that either give you a lot of conflict points and you're able to kind of jump into the war using the Rally Troops ability on the Landsraad, as well as getting cards with conflict points, or kind of going more of the draw card for persuasion and getting those high cost cards, maybe even spice must flow cards. Now, as the Count Ilban Richese, I generally like to get cards that provide me more options to use my Solari or to just gain more Solari in general. So I've got 3 cards here that I think would be really beneficial when you're playing as him. The first one is going to be Spice Smugglers. Now, the reason why I put this in here is because if you ever find yourself with some extra spice, this is a really great card to be able to just go up and influence with the guild, as well as gain 3 Solari. Not a bad deal. And I know you're probably sick of seeing it, but Opulence is another great card. You're able to go to the Emperor location with it, and its reveal ability is 1 Persuasion, and you're able to spend 6 Solari to gain a victory point. Another really, really powerful card. Now, this last one we actually haven't seen before yet, and it's the Assassination Mission. And I think this card is super cool because its reveal ability, you just gain a Solari and add a point to the conflict. But when this card is trashed, you're able to gain 4 Solari. Now, there are a couple of different ways that you can actually trash cards within the game, but if you want to guarantee it, you can always go to Selective Breeding with the Bene Gesserit. Now, as my last tip, I'm just going to kind of give you general paths that you could kind of go down with this character. I kind of see 2 main paths that kind of generally, naturally might come up. First one being the Emperor track. Now, you will find yourself naturally gaining a lot of Solari when you're gaining influence with the Emperor throughout the game. But if you go more of the Fremen route, let's say, you can actually get to the planet of Dune more often collecting that spice, and then you could go to the sell melange space and sell that spice for a ton of Solari. So either way is really good, but honestly, a blend of both could even be better than just one. So that is it for Count Ilban Richese. He's definitely a more straightforward type class where he is mostly going to be abusing the effects of those Landsraad board spaces to get extra cards from his deck, trying to make use of that Mentat ability as much as possible just to get the extra card draw, either providing him with more stock in the conflict or more persuasion to buy more expensive cards. He is a very fun character to play, and I definitely recommend giving him a try. Now, let's go ahead and jump right into Helena Richese. Now, Helena, she has eyes everywhere. Enemy agents do not block your agent spaces at Landsraad or city board spaces. And her signet ring ability is called Manipulate, probably one of the coolest abilities in the game. And it says to remove and replace a card in the Imperium row. And during your reveal turn this round, you may acquire the removed card for 1 persuasion less. Now, just to make sure you know, this does not include the 3 stacks of reserve cards. These are only the 5 cards face up at any given time, called the Imperium row. Now, my first tip is that Manipulate is a very, very powerful tool. And you're going to find that most of my tips kind of fall back to Manipulate being a really interesting concept in the game, being able to pull a card off of the Imperium row. And this ability can really be used as either a personal gain benefit or as something to stop your opponent from gaining. So if you know that your opponent really wants a card, sometimes it's actually worth it to just pull it aside, even if you don't have any intent on buying it yourself that round. Now, Eyes Everywhere is an ability that you are going to find that you're going to use more the more players there is. If you're playing a 4-player game, Helena becomes a bit more interesting as there is going to be more clutter on the board for spaces. However, even at lower player counts, I would still recommend giving Helena a try because you'll have the AI deck that's going to control 2 characters if you're playing solo and 1 character if you're playing with 2 players. So you're still going to make use of it, but I just find that it's been more interesting in 4-player games rather than lower player counts. Now, since in the beginning of the game you will likely be working with about 3 to 4 persuasion at the end of your turns, you're going to want to look out for 5-cost cards. And the reason for that is that a lot of these cards have really good abilities, and you getting access to one of those abilities earlier than other players will give you a nice edge and a quick ramp above your opponent. So keep on the lookout for cards that you can just barely afford using your Manipulate ability throughout the game. Now, I don't say this for every character, but some characters definitely need to get the High Council quicker than others. With Helena, I would say this is pretty essential. If you're able to get the High Council getting the extra 2 persuasion every turn, you're kind of getting a 3 persuasion discount on any card that you would like, because you've got that space naturally, as well as using the manipulate ability to pull a card off. And this is pretty insane, can lead to a lot of powerful plays, and can lead to you getting more powerful cards quicker than the other players. And my last tip with Helena is to look out for these 4 game-changing cards that I would say if they pop up, you need to grab, either to deny them from your opponents or to snag them from yourself. Starting with a pretty obvious one, the Guild Ambassador. This card is always in contention throughout the game, being able to spend spice to gain victory points throughout the game. We've also got Lady Jessica, a very, very good card where you're able to go up an influence track when purchased, and also provides you with 2 cards with her agent ability. And we also have the Kwisatz Haderach, which is a very powerful ability where you can send one of your agents from anywhere to any board space, even if it is occupied, and gain a card. Definitely deny your opponents of this power. And last but not least, we've got the Chom Directorship. This is an 8-cost card that, when purchased, puts you up 1 influence on every single track, and its reveal ability is to gain 3 Solari. All of these cards are the only ones in the deck and are very important cards to deny your opponents from getting or to grab yourself. Now, Helena Richese can take a ton of different directions, and your success with her is going to be with how well you use that manipulate ability. So this is definitely one that is a fun challenge for players to attempt to play, and she doesn't really provide much benefit outside of the fact that if you're not using that manipulate ability, yes, going to a spot that's already taken is really good, but the manipulate ability is incredible if used correctly, so this character should not be underestimated. Definitely consider playing her. And that is really it for both of these characters. I really appreciate the time that you have spent with me here today. And if you have any questions at all, whether it's about this game or anything you would like to ask me, you can always ask right down below in the comments, or you can visit my Twitter, Instagram, which those links will be down below. And if this video did bring value to you, please drop a like as well as subscribe. And if you want to know when the next video is released, click the bell notification, as that's really going to help my channel grow. But with that, that is it for House Richese. Let's go ahead and drop the beat.